The 2018 Starcraft II World Championship Series Global Finals are brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Corsair, T-Mobile, Samsung SSD, and NVIDIA.
Everyone has their own path to follow. Mine began here. I'm from Pornainen, Finland. We have around 5,000 people here, so I guess you could call it a village. And we have only one restaurant. I liked growing up in Pornainen a lot. I think my brother Jone is 4 years older. We had a very close relationship. We kind of just did everything together.
Pojat ovat olleet aina Jonne ja Joonin toistensa parhaat ystävät.
Eli ne on yhdessä tehnyt asioita ihan pienestä asti, vaikka niillä on kuitenkin se 4 vuotta ikäero.
I think I looked up my brother. Everything he does, he goes full into. And I mean, I try to do the same, but probably I have a bit slower start.
I'm Jonne Sotala and I'm Serral's brother. I'm attending Seoul National University to study mathematics. I think it's true, he's followed my footsteps. We went to the same school. When I started playing Starcraft, my brother also followed my lead, and then we started playing professionally.
To be honest, I felt like he was always a bit better in everything we did. One of the biggest interests we both had was gaming always, and that's why going to Starcraft was very easy for us. So when he started playing the game, I started playing the game as well.
I always beat him. And I was not the good brother that lets him win sometimes. Ever since he was really young kid, I think he got used to getting beaten up by his older brother.
He never let me win, but it's very bad if he would let me win. I need to achieve my wins. Yeah, I mean, you learn the most from losing. So.
I think I was maybe kind of like an obstacle to him that he overcame, and I think from that he kind of went off to the skies.
Serral is so good. Is really starting to look like he's just going to be that monster who hangs around for years to come.
Outside the lurk is separating a couple of these units as well.
GG! Crack! And Serral is going to be the first ever WCS champion for the 2018 season.
Musta tosi upeeta, että onhan tää meille koko perheelle Suomessa.
We've got a champion in Serral. Surprise, surprise.
He may even be on a path to win all 4 WCS events this year.
Kun Joona oli lapsi, niin ei voitu kuvitellakaan tätä menestystä tai ei osattu ajatellakaan.
It feels great. I have been waiting for this for so long. I'm gonna try to get more of those trophies.
GG! Serral has done it yet again!
3 victories in a row for the Finnish phenom. This is an unrivaled...
I'm flying to Seoul for the TSL versus the World event. I'll see my brother again. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Just gonna hang out and have some fun time together.
Based on my experience, after Joona has finished, he's gonna miss his esports career. It's probably more regret than sadness, but I was kind of split between pro gaming and studies. The fact that I didn't go full on pro gaming, I don't really want to regret it, but at the same time, you always you also would want to see what would happen if you do everything you can. Maybe I could be also in his shoes right now. Of course, I was really happy for him, but I also felt a bit sad because that was also my dream. Yeah.
I mean, we have never talked about it too much in general, but I felt like always when it comes to decisions like that, you always have a bit of regrets. I think everyone has to stop at some point. Eventually, I think I have to follow my brother's path. Probably just gonna live a very normal life. I'm probably gonna regret it a bit, but at the same time understand that this is a necessary step.
We like playing games, so we just wanted to meet up and do what we usually do. We're gonna play Starcraft at the BlizzCon. Yeah, of course I wanna show my father that I still can do it and beat him after all these years. I think he was losing almost the whole time. I think he was smiling because it's kind of expected that he should be winning, but but because I was giving him hard time, it kind of was funny at the same time.
When I was smiling, the game was already over. The TSL versus the World event is gonna be very hard with all the top players like Rogue and Maru. I'm confident I can beat anyone if I'm playing my game and playing good.
You know, one thing about Serral, he doesn't strike me as somebody who's fazed at all by who his opponent is or what the stakes are.
I'm not too nervous in events. That's just a place where I do my work, so it's kind of where I belong.
Serral is keeping Kalazur busy.
Serral looking like he's poised to take the 3-0. He's up so high in supply here, and it's just too much. GG! Serral! He's just too damn good.
If he can beat Innovation, then the WCS fans out there are going to start to believe.
The front door's open. Those slings are going to get on that tank, and it's going to be lights out for Innovation. GG!
Serral's so dominant. It's so crazy.
Woo! How good is this kid, Tasteless? How good is he?
Right now, Serral pushing forward. Dark is on his last legs right now.
Massive damage there from Serral.
Serral, the master of moves like this.
There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and I do believe that Serral has done it. GG!
Oh my God, Serral has now topped Innovation. He has now gone 3-1 against Dark, and Serral goes to the GSL versus the World Finals to face off against the Ultimate Challenge in stats.
This is it though, Tasteless. GSL versus the world, the all-star game of Starcraft 2. We've had the 8 best players from around the world against the 8 best players from Korea for the last 4 days, and we're down to 2. This is the greatest thing that you could have, a Game 7. It's rare to hit Game 7.
Serral's entire life has been leading up to this moment.
Yeah, I really like what Stats is doing here. He is looking really, really good at the moment. If Serral does not figure this out, he's going to be in a ton of trouble.
Serral is starting to lose too many workers too quickly. Serral needs to hold this attack up or he will lose this game for sure.
Oh my God, and at the end of the day, Stats is forced back. Oh man, Stats cannot be happy with this right now.
Yeah, Serral handling this beautifully. He's coming forward. He doesn't have many more force fields left. The roaches are coming up.
Oh my God, that's so many roaches coming up. The force fields get thrown out. The Immortals starting to take damage. The shield batteries just aren't ready. Can Serral break through right now?
Serral's coming forward. GG! It is done! Serral is your GSL versus the world champion!
That was a proud moment for me. I felt great happiness. I can't remember exactly what I saw, but I did see him there clapping.
Actually, I think my best time of my life is seeing my brother fulfill his dreams. At the same time, I've been able to fulfill my dreams through him. I think, so actually right now, I think it's one of my best times.
Yeah, I think my future as schooling. Eventually, I think I have to follow my brother's path in university. We're just gonna live a very normal life. I kinda always dream about the normal life. Like, gaming career can't go forever. Right now I'm at the top, so I feel like I really want to keep this going, and I'm trying my hardest to keep it going, and trying to make the most of it all the time. My name is Joona Sotala, and I'm a Starcraft 2 pro gamer.
An esports legacy that has already been written in the history books, even just this year by Serral. Can he cap it off with a world championship? That would truly make absolute esports history here on one of the biggest stages of them all. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we're about to get into our next round of 8 match. In fact, our final round of 8 match. And joining me to my right-hand side, I have Artosis, Rotterdam, and Todd to get this going. It's going to be Zerg versus Zerg. It's going to be Dark versus Serral. We're going to focus on Serral first because he's had an absolutely phenomenal 2018.
Yeah, that you really aren't doing him justice, James. It was almost really funny in the beginning, right? Because he like wins WCS and then he wins WCS, and at that point on the third one, we're like, I hope someone else wins WCS. But once he wins the third, oh God, let's just see him go all the way.
Sure.
And he did. He did. This is the most successful we have ever seen anybody.
It's not just the WCS where he shined. I mean, of course, we just saw the highlights of GSL versus the world. I think that was one moment where even the doubters were like, all right, Serral is truly for real. He's not just good in the WCS event, but even besides that highlight of GSL versus the world, Intel Extreme Masters Katowice, he won his group and he made it into the semi-finals. That's besides BlizzCon, maybe the toughest tournament of the year.
Yeah.
And then, of course, WESG in China, he also made it into the semi-finals and even won that bronze medal match. Overall, this year, in my eyes, this is the best year a non-Korean StarCraft 2 player has ever had.
You know, I remember not too long ago, actually, I was at a tournament and I was talking about Serral with Stefano, and he was like, this is the only player I've ever been a fan of. And I was like, really? Not even Jaedong? He's like, no, Serral is the only guy that I respect. That's what he said. It's the only guy that I look at play and I'm like, this guy is amazing. It's really good. And sure enough, I guess he was right, because Serral is fulfilling his prophecy up to this point, and it's almost as if his whole life has led him there, guys.
It's as if every day that is what occurs. But I mean, it was even mentioned there as well, he has beaten Dark in that GSL versus the World match. And Dark, on the other side of things, of course, his opponent coming into this now round of 8 is potentially the entire hope breaker of the Western world. And Dark knows it as well, which is the big thing about it. He knows, Rotterdam, that he could potentially break so many people's hearts here and move on in the tournament.
Yeah, he knows it, and he wants to be that guy as well. He wants to be it so badly. He still makes very, very bold statements, but it's impossible not to be a fan of Dark. He's a phenomenal Zerg player. He has been for years. A lot of people will say that he should have been the BlizzCon champ of 2016 if Reapers were not as good as Reapers actually were back then. Dark is a monster. He's always been a monster, and of course he has his ups and downs, but I love the attitude that he brings to the table. He's a killer in and outside of the game. I just love him.
Ooh, and this statement, guys, like,
absolutely.
If this were another context, I would take out my phone and start screaming World Star, because Dark is definitely calling Serral out on this one. He thinks he's the weakest player among the three, and he wants to play him. If you guys are newer StarCraft viewers, let me put this in perspective with you guys. Dark barely ever loses to any non-Korean player. Last year, going to the global finals, he was something like 50-0. He lost to Elaser.
Yep.
Since that happened, he lost to Serral in a GSL versus the World Tournament, and then he lost to Showtime. He's 64-3 on Legacy of the Void against non-Korean players, which is an insane record.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can't underestimate him, and I think you can, even though he's kind of like a troll a little bit, and he's a showman with what he says, I think that you shouldn't just take it for granted. Like, he means this as well. We just saw Rogue versus TY. You have to give them the utmost respect. Maybe he's found something in Serral's play.
Yeah.
Maybe he really thinks that he can take him out more easily than the other two.
I love that you say that, because I actually believe that maybe the confidence could be his downfall. I actually think that if Dark truly sits down, he could spot those weaknesses. But I actually think Dark is such a strong believer in himself that he says, like, no, I can do the same thing as you're doing, and I can do it better. And that, I honestly don't know if that's the case.
It's very important to note as well, Todd, that even Serral's last WCS run came off the back of Zerg versus Zerg after Zerg versus Zerg after Zerg versus Zerg. In the Western world, where a lot of people consider Zergs and ZVZ actually kind of a specialty of the Western world.
Oh yeah, like, I mean, that's like almost like another statement in those WCS Europe region. We see so many Zergs at the top, guys like Elaser and all that, so Serral gets his fair share of ZVZ practice. Then again, this is one of the best Korean Zerg we're talking about, who gets practice on the best server technically in Korea. So could be a clash of styles as well. And yeah, it's going to be a huge matchup.
We come in thinking, I think a lot of people believe Serral to be kind of a favorite coming in here. So I'm going to take the opposite route here and ask you the question of, what does Dark do to try and upset the balance here?
Well, I think that it is a clash of styles, like Todd said. The Korean Zergs definitely play very different from the European Zergs, so it's going to be very important for him to keep that style. We've seen in the past that Serral is not invincible against his style. Some of his closest matches, for instance, against Scarlet in Valencia, that was very close. It almost went to her. He did come out on top, sure, but there's been so many ZVZs lately that Serral's played, especially throughout Montreal. The most recent WCS, Dark has lost to him before, and you guys might look at that as an advantage towards Serral, but I actually look at that as an advantage towards Dark. He's already seen and felt what it's like to play Serral, and he can adjust from there.
Roddy?
I mean, Serral has looked almost invincible in ZVZ. He hasn't lost since February, where he lost against Scarlet in the Inter Extreme Masters Pyeongchang back then. And of course, a lot of people say, like, he looked a little more though in the matchup in Montreal. He dropped a lot of maps, but the fact that he won 24 series in a row in ZVZ, I think is spectacular. But I do think it's a popular opinion that his one tiny weakness in the matchup are Mudas. He doesn't seem to be a massive Muda player himself. And when his opponents play Mudas against him and try to hit him with these weird bailing timings, Muda Bane all in, or go Lurk is very fast, that's when you can maybe throw him off a little bit. But is Dark going to play like that, or is Dark going to be like, let's do the same thing?
Well, we're about to find out. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It is time for our final round of 8 match. As Finland goes up against Korea, it's Serral going up against Dark.
Of StarCraft 2, but now we've saved the best for last. Anaheim, are you ready? We have 2 of the strongest Zerg players in the world going up against one another. Can our 4-time WCS champion and last foreign hope continue his remarkable performance, or will our Korean Zerg stop him in his tracks? Please welcome up on stage, it is Serral and Dark!
The most dominant player in WCS history up against a man who has made a name for himself as a slayer of non-Koreans. It's Serral vs. Dark, the Zerg vs. Zerg match to find out last player that's going through to the semis.
Both these players are so confident. Both these players are used to success. Dark's talking a lot about it. He does not drop series to foreigners, but that took a weird turn when he faced Serral at GSL versus the World. And Serral just doesn't lose Zerg versus Zerg. It just doesn't really happen. But in this round of 8, one of these 2 guys does have to lose.
That's BlizzCon. It's always coming down here. It's a single elimination. You don't get any extra lives after this series. And it's something where the players have been studying each other. They've been watching. They've seen the bracket ahead of time. And they've no doubt got a lot of plans. Of course, a lot of hype behind Serral. But people have been watching him now, talking about it on the couch. He showed a lot of map losses to those Mutalisks, those Ling run bys, all sorts of plays. Raynor took him to his limit in that amazing Grand Final series. And I'm so excited to see how he's evolved and how Dark is going to approach this problem, because Dark is such a confident player. He has put those fighting words out there. He is not afraid of this match.
No, he's not at all. He's a clever player, he's a smart player, and he's willing to craft a series to defeat his opponent. And he's going to need to, because if you just try to outplay Serral, well, not many people have been able to do that at all. As we get into this final Round of 8 match between these two Zerg players. Only one can advance. Anaheim, I want you guys to put your hands together for this green Zerg in the top right-hand side. It's Dark!
And his opponent down here in the bottom left-hand side of Lost and Found. Representing NT Sports, the Finnish Zerg, he is Serral!
These players playing in the biggest tournament of the year. Life-changing money abound, all the honor, all the privilege. And they're going to start this off a little bit basic, Pig, here. We're not going to get any early pools just yet. Nothing mixing up too crazy. Where do we go from here? I mean, what are some of your predictions for how, I mean, if you're Dark, how do you take down Serral? What do you do here?
You know, I think you've got to draw a lot of inspiration from what Raynor did against him. Scarlet has taken him to match point and arguably could have, you know, closed those series out twice this year after Pyeongchang, where she did beat him. You know, Scarlet has shown a lot of great upgraded Zergling builds, Mutalisk builds, and one thing she's done very frequently to get an advantage over Serral, exactly what Dark's doing right here.
I'm loving this from Dark. Take that risk. I mean, if you are facing kind of an early pool build, it's just about an auto loss, but if you study Serral, you know that he doesn't do that very often. He's more often the better player who says, you take the risk, you do something wonky, and I'll be the one to reflect it. So Dark is going to get a little bit of an edge here, but Pig, how much of a difference does this make? Is it that big of a deal?
You know, it's not absolutely game-ending by any means, but it's one of these things when you've got two players who are so closely matched to take your third base before getting your spawning pool. You can't build any Zerglings early, so you're just getting that extra advantage in the drones, a big map like Lost and Found. It's going to give Dark a bit more production, and it gives him the opportunity with that extra production to really spiral out of control. If he can win an early skirmish, then it turns into a massive advantage. If Serral plays very tight, usually ends up down maybe 2 drones, something like that. It's not massive, but it's already showing Dark's attitude. He's willing to take risks. He's willing to take advantage of the habits which Serral has out there. Serral, notorious for not taking the risky plays, not going for the early spawning pool rushes, as you said. And you know what? The Overlord doesn't necessarily spot this straight away either, because that third base, you're not really checking for it for a few seconds. So Serral, he'll confirm that in about 10 seconds or so.
And he's going to head over there. I kind of want to build off of one point you made there, because I really like it a lot. Stat to stat, this is nice, obviously. We know that much, but it does put Serral in this weird spot where if he makes a couple of too conservative choices, he's like, I'm going to play super safe because I think you're going to be really aggressive. All of a sudden, that early gamble becomes just that much better. But as we can see, Serral will bounce back with his own third hatchery, and up there on the production tab, similar timings on speed, baneliness, that kind of a thing. So the game will level out with, like you said, a slight edge for Dark here.
It's interesting to see Dark went into gas so early behind that hatchery as well. So he's still got a very respectably timed baneling nest, just a few seconds behind Serral's, but he's delayed his extra queens to get that. So, you know, a little bit slower on that. You can see 3 worker lead already. Dark starting out very nicely. Queens kind of hunting around. They were looking to poke the Overlords back, but Serral already very conservative with those Overlord positions, realizing that was an option. And now we see just a couple of Zerglings entering the production tab. So both sides going to skirmish, but both of them are going back to drone. We're not seeing a huge commitment. They're just pressuring, scouting, and looking for little bits of damage.
Yep, getting that information here, and maybe a drone or 2 will go down. Should be a nice little early pickoff here from Serral. He is getting cornered off, though. He sees a similar number of Zerglings. The other reason you do this kind of move, he actually might get the poke up into the main here and see if there is a lair timing or not. Fantastic information.
They always find a way in. We talk about this so much because Serral, these Lings, he loves to see everything his opponent's up to and react to it. So those Lings do a full circuit. They see everything. One of them even gets out of there. And Dark is morphing a few Banelings on the offense. A very quick lair on the way for Serral. He's already got an evolution chamber, but he might be a little bit light on the defense. Dark is going to swing in with a counter pressure.
Must be good to be Serral. This Overlord just kind of making its way out there as it would, but it's going to spot these 2 Banelings that are mostly unaided. If you look at that mini-map, there's nothing else really coming over here. So I do have to say, it's an acceptable risk, but a little bit of a Hail Mary there. I mean, what are the odds that 2 Banelings waddle all the way into the natural and kill the mineral line?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's a cheap investment, so I don't mind it from Dark, but definitely he's just kind of droning behind it, trying to build on that economic advantage. Good micro here from Serral, just locking everything down. And he's stabilized this game really in a very patient, calm way, slowing down the advantage that Dark might have been able to get.
Pig, what do you think about that +1 melee? We've seen this battle go out to Roaches very often, but what does melee do here at this time?
And that's a real mobility focus there from Serral. I mean, that's going to give you great counterattacks on a big map like this. That's really nice if you can catch your opponent out of position, especially if you snipe a few overlords on your side so they don't have as much vision. You start sneaking these link counters in, and it does speak to the chance that Serral might opt for that Mutalisk play behind this. Indeed, Aspire has actually gone down behind this. Serral continuing to scout. He sees that huge drone count on the third, and he knows Dark is going for the big macro game. He's not doing a rush. Dark is going into upgrades. He's teching up, and we're going to see Serral there going into Lings and Mutas, playing the more mobile, aggressive style. Dark's actually going to have more of a meaty army. It wants to fight front on, but it definitely does not have that same flexibility.
And you can kind of see the denial of information happening here for Serral. He's just sending out these individual Zerglings, getting an idea of the saturation at the third, like Pig pointed out, but also seeing kind of the pathing of the Lings mid-map. There was a Baneling detonation at the third, but without the Ling follow-up, there wasn't any real damage in there. Oh, okay, that's a proxy Spire from Dark. Now, the timing of this is a little bit weird, right? It's quite significantly behind that of Serral's. How big of a deal is that?
It's such a weird scenario because it's so secret. Both players trying to hide what they're doing so far. Nice! Baneling from Dark shuts that down. But yeah, I mean, this Spy attack is going to come out faster for Serral. But even though he sees this, he sees Roaches. In fact, there's even Roach speed in +1. Dark isn't going to be able to contest Muta to Muta. And I don't think he's seen the Spire either. He hasn't. So this is actually way better for Serral, I gotta say. As long as these Roaches don't catch him off guard, he's gonna be able to have more Mutalisks because he's building mineral units. Zerglings don't cost any, and he's even getting the flyer upgrades already, looking like he wants to go into mass Mutalisk play. So I think Serral here definitely has an advantage in the Mutalisk war. Dark, he just doesn't have the information. He doesn't realize what he's up against, but seeing this Zergling count, he's gotta get suspicious. This is so weird seeing that many Zerglings on the map in the mid game.
He saw no Roaches, and he's got something like 15 or 16 of his own out there. I feel like that should have tipped him off, but if it has, it might be a little bit too late. The Zerglings of Serral kind of sharking around out here, trying to slow down this fourth base development, but it will go down there. And as Pig pointed out, more Mutas coming out for Serral, but it's going to be Corruptors as the answer from Dark. I've never even... I'm a little bit out here, Pig.
You haven't been watching enough of Cat streams, Jeff.
No, I have not.
I mean, this is one of these builds. It's very rare. Corruptors can beat Mutas head-to-head. They're not as mobile, but this can sometimes allow you to break through. If those Corruptors can push back the Mutas, then your Roaches can push through. But it's a very, very committed assault. And the thing is, in the long term, I mean, we've got better upgrades for Serral. If his flyer attack kicks in, if his Zerglings backstab, he can get more Mutas, and he can add his own Corruptors in as well.
And your own Corruptors, but I feel like just mass Muta alone would be Corruptor versus Corruptor. Now, at Hive Tech, you get Vipers and stuff like that, and that's where I think, of course, Mutas do fall off. But up until then, if you just keep making Mutas, don't they just beat Corruptors?
You know, head-to-head, I actually don't even know when you've got
it's a
equal
little
number.
weird.
You never actually encounter an equal number of cost Mutalisk versus Corruptor. But what you're going to see is Serral say, I'm not going to take that fight unless I'm 100% confident I've got the numbers. Look at the way he's moving his Mutalisks. He's gone around the south, picked off a few drones, and he's going to keep doing this. He knows he's got the faster 4th and 5th base up. He's got more gas mining going on in the near future here. Does Serral. He's got a bigger economy, so he's just going to kind of patiently play this out. He's just got to watch out because I feel like Dark is building to one very powerful frontal attack.
Some Banelings kind of swinging around here on the right side. Keep in mind those Mutas heal super, super fast. Almost every time they disengage, they come back with that full health, and that'll be another advantage. But the Banelings going to swing over here to the third. Just now he realizes, but two already anticipating that move. They're connecting here fairly well, but only 6 drones die. Now, if this was like 3 base versus 3 base, or even earlier than that, I think that damage is absolutely massive, but as it is, it's pretty okay for both players, I feel.
Yeah, it's not too bad there. I mean, the Banelings, of course, are a gas expense, which is not what you really want to be throwing away in an air war, but he got a few workers for it. Serral now posturing. He wants to get those low hit point drones, trying to threaten at the north side. The Lings coming in. The Muta's going to focus down the Banelings. Serral, he's going in with the Mutas and the Zerglings as well. Not quite able to get the clicks there. And at the same time, the Lings are going to swing in on the south. He's trying to just create a distraction. And, oh man, the Zerglings hug the Baneling. Not what he wanted there.
Here's the actual damage of that attack. That attack that we just saw was not much, but here, this hatchery could very well go down. The Roaches going to try to stop them. They're shooting as best they can, but it won't be in time as the hatchery is sniped. 13 drones died somewhere else as well. The action is non-stop. 74 drones to 58. Serral behind in army supply, though.
Yeah, I mean, he threw away a lot of Zerglings there, but he's still got this mobility advantage, and he's got the way bigger economy behind this. His own Queen's coming to try and fight. These Corruptors taking a pretty good engagement against the Mutalisks. Such a weird situation there. Lings trying desperately to buy time, but Dark has said enough's enough. I know I've got the anti-air unit count. I'm going to try and force the engagement. Serral desperately trying to backstab with his Zerglings. He's trying to gather his Queens on the front, but those Roaches are about to push in. He needs to overwhelm these Corruptors, or Serral is is toast.
He has to win the air battle, and he has to win it significantly. I don't know if he has the ability to do that. The Queen's pulling in, trying to help, but there's so many roaches here. They're going to kill that base for free. They're going to kill the Queens, and the few mutas that pull back do not have the DPS to stop this. Dark rolls in with the roaches and is going to be able to pull away with a massive lead. Unless these Lings can find something, but I just don't see it happening.
I mean, that's just too many roaches with the +2. They're two-shotting those Zerglings. The mutas here trying to gather up, but the micro from Dark has been very good. He's finally looking like he's being overwhelmed by the mutas, but the roaches are in the mineral lines. They've already taken out the 4th, the 3rd, and the natural under siege. Serral here overwhelmed by the Corruptor roach push, it seems. He might barely hang on, but he's taken a ton of damage.
He's taken a ton of damage. He's dealt it on the other side. They're actually equal in workers. And if he wins the air battle, that's it. Rebuilding Corruptors is just not something he can really do. The 3rd base is going to be sniped, but there's that 6 o'clock expansion,
but the
which is just now
it.
found.
They find it, and there's still a lot of roaches at the 3rd, but right now they're hitting extractors. Dark is not finding his way into the juicy underbelly of Serral's economy. Finally, these roaches swing in and into the natural. That's also very important. Are they going to get in? The Lings with +2 melee, they kill these roaches quite quickly.
God.
If Serral can defend this base, he might be able to hang on here. The Mutalisks coming back, the drones trying desperately to evacuate.
He's just making Corruptors pig. I think that they actually are not a good Remax option here. He's making too few because of the saturation's quite low.
What about the Ling counterattack on the ground as well? If he's only building Corruptors, they might be able to just take out his workers, and Serral's already diving across the map.
He's up in supply. He's up in army supply. I was ready to call this over. Serral was not. He held on. He's going to fight these Corruptors. The Spore Power is going to be the only thing that saves him for right now.
Yeah, I don't know. This might be a little bit ambitious here from Serral. He's going to dive on it. He's starting to focus down those Corruptors. And that Spore Crawler actually looks like it did go down. It was already very heavily damaged. These Mutas continuing to just find the pickoffs. He wants to take out the Roaches. He knows if he can overwhelm on the ground, the Mutas can just evade. And that's what he did. The Roaches are gone. The Zerglings are in the work account. The Mutas say, we're out of here. We've done what we need to do. The Zerglings are into the worker line, and this game has turned on its head. Dark not able to break Serral with his push, and Serral clawing his way back into this game.
He's up in army supply. He's up in worker supply. The first battle was the Corruptors making a tough equation, saying if you kill us, the Roaches will kill you. But in the second fight, it's the Lings reversing that role, and now the Mutas are actually winning this fight. The Corruptors have to fall back, and every time they do, it costs a pretty penny. 8 more Roaches coming out in that build tab.
Yeah, these Lings coming in
more
as well.
Lings, more Mutas, it's the right answer.
It's just nice trades here for Serral here. These Lings do start to wash up a little bit, but another 2 workers went down in the midst. It's 46 workers for Serral. He's rebuilding one of his bases, so he's going to be going up to 4 bases available to mine from. Dark's trapped on 3. As long as he doesn't get overwhelmed in the air battle again, he should be okay. He turns around. He's going to chase down these Corruptors. They came out too far on the map. Uh-oh, Dark overstepping there, and those Corruptors going down. The Mutalisks relentlessly hunting them off the map, and with it, Dark's air control is gone.
And he's going to walk these Roaches across the map, but it's to their doom. They're going to get to a base and find out that it's well saturated. The Lings respond so quickly as well, and the Roaches, yes, they're good against the Lings, but in the time that they're killing the Lings, they're dying to the Mutas. You can see this everywhere he turns. There's something Serral, and he's saying, you have had your chance, but get out of here. And that's it. 1-0 for Serral in this best of 5. Holy Toledo.
Wow. Taken to the edge in the first map of this best of 5 series, but he hangs on, and that's why he is a 4-time WCS champion. We've seen him so many times wriggle his way out of these unwinnable scenarios, but he stayed patient. He wore those Corruptors down, and suddenly the tides turned upside down. He managed to keep some economy up, and he just took control of that game.
He lost the initial engagement. There was Roaches fighting Lings. There was Corruptors pushing the Mutas back, and he turns it around from there. I'm not afraid to it, and there's going to be somebody out there who's like, I've seen Corruptors versus Mutas before. I know how this goes. No, that was weird. But I'll tell you, Dark reached in. He went for the double hatch before the pool. He proxied a Spire. He tried to get as weird as he could. But something the guys on the couch talked about, and I love it here, Serral has a weakness for Mutas. Well, what's one of the best ways to face your weakness? It's to just go on head in, and he did it. He opened up Spire in this best of 5.
It worked very nicely for him. He hid the information so well, and that's often what Zerg vs. Zerg is, a game of information. We talked early on there about how the Zerglings of Serral, they see everything. Well, Dark knew that. He hid his Spire outside of his base. It was very clever. but it didn't match up well in terms of if he wanted to go into his own Mutalisk, it wasn't going to work. He, of course, had that contingency plan with the Corruptor push, wasn't quite able to overwhelm him, but very cool to see this upgraded melee style, these Mutas, this style which has been so popular in the European scene, and Serral didn't use for a long time, but finally he's picking it up and he's showing he can play it very, very well.
And one final point on that pick, something you talked a lot about too, is like if he just goes Mutas with a Dark, then he's just behind. He invested in Roaches,
no way
he just has Mutas. He's just, so he does the right call, but still it wasn't enough. Well, anyways, guys, we're here at game number 2 on Cerulean Falls. In the lower left-hand side, trailing 0-1 from Korea, it's Dark.
And here in the top right-hand side of Cerulean Fall, in the red, hailing from Finland and representing NC Sports, he is Serral!
Absolutely stunning day here. We've had a lot of kind of return to normalcy, right? But we've also had some upsets, starting with Maru dropping 0-3 to SOS.
It's been a crazy start to the day, hasn't it?
It's been good.
I mean, Special really took stats to the limit as well. That series could have easily been upside down. We've seen a lot of very close matches. Of course, that last Zerg vs. Terran as well really got my heart rate up. And now here to see, I mean, it's so crazy because I kind of think of what's Serral's weakness. People were criticizing him at Montreal, and people were saying he's too defensive. He's playing a bit too predictably. But he does it here anyway, and he stops all the curveballs that come his way. It's what makes him so strong, is he doesn't flinch under pressure. He keeps that cool. I feel like the most tilted I've ever seen him on stage is like the tiniest twitch in his eye, and then he's just back to laser focused, and that's it. He never seems to get thrown off his game, and he's just able to calm everything down and always show his best play.
And we've seen players push him to the limit. I think of Valencia or Haz in that finals. I mean, everyone was kind of laughing at Haz's chances, but he took a couple of games off of him. And if you, and every time they showed Serral, it looked like a guy with a Rubik's Cube with like 600,000 pieces on it. He's like, what the heck is this? So Dark's trying to channel a little bit of that, but Dark is also in his own right one of the absolute top players. He does not need to throw his opponent way off to take the win. It's just that his style is such that he's so good, if he can get you a slightly off kilter or uncomfortable, well then that's curtains for you. You're not going to be able to recover. But I love the question you asked, how do you beat Serral? I mean, Dark's going into this, he had his ideas, but he tried so much stuff in that first game. Where do you go from there? Because we have a pretty normal opening here, Pick.
You know, it's interesting because Dark is a guy with a lot of tricks up his sleeve, but he is so good in a straight-up game as well. And, I mean, he's a player who's shown amazing burrowing roach play before.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Serral, he's the guy who's kind of known as the king of that in the WCS scene, but Dark's confident. I don't think he shies away from facing him at his own game, and already here in game number 2, it seems like a very quick land, no Zergling speed. So no doubt going to be going for most likely some very quick roaches. Of course, a few tricky builds where you fake roaches and you go Spire or you go Nidus Worm off this are possible as well. We don't see an evolution chamber yet for Dark, and he's hunting this Overlord. You can see he wants to push Serral's vision away. He doesn't want to give any free information, and this is interesting. Keeping an eye on that production tab, of course, to see what Dark goes for. The evolution chamber and the Roach Warren do go down, and there's definitely a big opportunity here for Dark to hit a very strong Roach attack. He can always just take a delayed third with this, but he's going to try and slow down Serral's flow of information. The wall off at the front going to be the only thing Serral gets to see. So later on, we're going to see Serral poking up and down here with his Zerglings and seeing if the Evo chambers are upgrading or not. That's going to be the only thing that he can actually check for, because Serral's gone for the fast third base. He's got the Zergling speed. He's gone for the standard sort of mobility, flexibility, economy, but that slows down your lair. You can't get an Overseer. You can't get in there to scout. And oh my, that's a Nidus Worm.
It's a Nidus Worm showing up, so Dark is going to go into his tricks and try to pull out an early and quick win here. The big question here is there's that scouting, as you predicted.
Oh, no upgrade on the Evo chamber. That's the tell. That's the tell. If I know Serral, he immediately has a good idea of what he's up against. We're going to keep an eye on that production tab. I think he's just going to be building Overlords and then Roaches. Oh, more drones do enter the production tab. He might not have realized. And already this is such a fast Nidus Worm in control. It's already launching out front of the base. He's barely even got any Roaches on the map, but he wants to get Serral hard and fast in this game.
He is making Roaches just now. We saw that on the production tab just before he went out of vision. Now this Nidus is poking out a little bit outside, right? It's not inside the base, so it's a close and quick attack. Here come the Queens and the Roaches.
Oh, he's already going to start taking down these units. Lots of transfuses banked up on those queens. He's going to push in. The Roach Warren's exposed. Will he go for it? No, he's going to dive in deep. He wants to get on top of these defenses early on. The Zergling's going to try and focus down the Nidus Worm. It's going to fall.
It does fall. The drone's going to try to block up some space here. The Queens and Roaches of Serral's come out. They're on top of this small force. And a lot of drones are dying, but there was a pretty significant worker lead for Serral, so he's going to push this back. The Queens are trapped. The Roaches are getting the damage in, and that attack is pushed back.
What the? I don't even know how
does he do it?
The Lings took out the Nidus Worm. They wrapped around from behind. Dark tried to pull back down that ramp, and Roaches spawned around his entire army. Serral shuts it down, keeps the worker count even with a massive army lead. Serral surviving it, seemingly completely unawares until the last moment that it was coming, but he is just so good under the fire. He never seems to get shaken, and only now do Dark's upgrade start, but he's going for the Spire. Dark continuing this tricky line of play. He wants to keep surprising Serral.
And I have my doubts about that Spire. If that shows up as your plan A strategy, yes, you can catch a Zerg with few queens or no spore crawlers or good map control by killing a bunch of overlords, but at this stage, Serral's going to have that worker lead. He has that third base. He's going to push on beyond that, and every time he scouts it, there's no third for Dark, the options get more limited. It could just be like less Roaches or I guess Mutas, but in either case, Serral has all the options in front of him, and it's Dark that's scrambling for an answer right now.
And this is just trademark Serral, isn't it? From that position, he says, you know what, let's just get information. There's an Overseer on the way. He's got Overlord speed as well. And what's he done? He's built drones, he's building Roaches. He's kind of saying, build some economy, build some army, defend. I know I'm ahead. You invested in a Nidus Worm that fast. I know you had next to no economy behind that. So Serral's here with this very safe economic lead. You know, he's up about 20 army supply. He's up a couple of workers. And the speed Overseer comes in and says, oh, a Spire. Okay. 3 queens were already on the way. Serral was so prepared for this. I think he might just have Dark's number.
And he has Overlord speed already, too, so the bad news gets worse for Dark. Like, sometimes the 5 or 6 Mutas can kill 5 or 6 Overlords, and that's nice enough, right? As you establish your third, but in this case, he won't get that. And as you point out, just now the Spore Crawler's coming up, more queens queued up. It could be his own Nidus Worm if he wanted to. He could just walk them across, or he could throw down a Hydra Den, depending on where he wants to go from here. But when you make Mutas at this point, you're not looking to mass Mutas to win the game with that kind of army. You were hoping to get some map control, do some damage. He's not going to get that.
Yeah, it's almost like that momentum play, right? Where you often swap back into Roaches, and you kind of catch them with a Roach attack as they're building the anti-air still. This time, the Mutalists get an Overseer snipe, and that's about it. Serral is even going to sneak another Overseer down the right flank of the map. He knows scouting what the follow-up is how he's going to ensure victory in this game. He's built his anti-air. His squad of queens will be rotating around following these Mutalisks. They're going to manage to grab a single, 2 worker kills there before they do get thrown away. Not bad, but definitely nothing hugely impactful. The Overseer coming in sees the drones coming out, and Serral immediately will know, okay, you're building economy, I can build economy too. He's got double upgrades. He's got a Hydra Den, drones filling up the production tab. Serral is very happy to just defend and work his way towards a 4th base.
It's not, I mean, obviously it's very good for Serral, but I do want to point out, Dark, this move is nice for him. Even though he's not snagging some huge amounts of drones or overlords, just to stack defenses, just the pullback from Serral, just the extra queens, is allowing him to catch up in workers. He's caught up in army. So Dark has stabilized. And it's going to get to that stage of the game where you talked about maybe we'll see some tunneling claws or a lurker den coming out from Serral. But the game is going to advance, whereas before this, it was looking very bleak for Dark. So a nice move from him.
Absolutely. Both sides working their way up. For now, Dark is very focused on the Roach Ravager. He's also got double upgrades and an upgrade lead, which is very nice there for Dark. Might be able to pick some fights while he's still got that upgrade edge. Of course, can lead to some very nice, efficient trades. However, when the lurkers hit the field, that is where Serral gets into his own. He even said in an interview about his Zerg vs. Zerg matches, he said, look, these Korean Zergs, they try to take you down in the mid-game. The only one is Rogue that'll play me in late game. He says, if I get to about 10 lurkers, I don't think I'll ever lose to anyone except maybe Rogue. So he is just aiming for that later stage. He knows he can just defend with lurkers, work his way down, build up his economy, and eke out advantages over time. So he is happy to sit in this defensive stance. And as we see Dark still focused on Roaches, I imagine he's going to be making a lot of Ravagers and trying to come in and use his aggressive positioning, drop Biles on any individual lurkers, and really try to catch Serral out of position using the Roach count advantage.
We don't have to go that far back. It was Serral versus... Well, it was in his last WCS finals where he was able to claw back in with those lurkers.
Oh, this same map, right?
Yes. Rainer,
an
young guy.
Insane comeback in that second last map, I think it was in that series.
So you give it to him an equal or a head status. It's going to be really, really tough. But it's going to be Ravagers and Roaches coming out for Dark. We have not seen Tunneling Claws just yet, but that lurker upgrade is clicking in here. for Serral.
It's all about the positioning now, isn't it? Now, those Mutas are so important because they've denied Serral's vision. His Overlords have all been cleaned up off the map, so these Roaches and Ravagers are able to move forward. And the thing is, Serral doesn't see them, so they might even be able to get in on a hatch snipe. Oh, good Lurker spread already out here. There's no Overseers with this army right now, which is a bit of a mistake. The Lurker's in position, going to push that back, and now Serral knows what he's up against. You see that Ravager count? You know your opponent is trying to catch you out of position. Serral actually going to go for a very ballsy maneuver, going to send his Roaches diving across the map, but he's been spotted, and I think that is a good choice to pull back. That would have been a bit crazy if he kept on going there.
What a top-notch ZVZ we're seeing here, because in any other situation, those maybe get to the other side of the map and just end the game kind of outright with the damage they do. But here, Dark already anticipated that move. Now, the slight mistake of not having the Overseer will be corrected here as it does float towards forward.
Lurkers are on the right-hand side, but not too many in the middle. There we go. One does burrow in the back on the natural ramp. Another one on the ramp to the third. The concave, the angle. You can see that huge arc of Zerg. Serral not shying away from this fight. Both players dodging the corrosive vials. Dark gonna have to pull back. He's got to preserve these Ravagers. They're his valuable unit. He's got 28 more Roaches, but actually Serral kind of chasing him right now. These Lurkers coming in, trying to come in on the right-hand side flank. Serral eating a couple of corrosive vials. He wants to keep pushing across the map. He knows he's got an advantage, but for now he realizes he's got to consolidate, wait for a few more Lurkers, max out once again. Burrow's on the way. More and more Lurkers as well as the Hive. Meanwhile, Dark is just stuck on mass Roach Ravager. He's got to make it happen with this style of army because there's nothing else coming out for him.
And his own Hydra Den is about to finish, so he's going to head in this direction. But as Pig pointed out, at least for the time being here, it is just going to be this kind of inferior composition. And if he can out-control Serral, sure, it can be really effective, but that's such a tall order. It's so hard to catch Serral making that mistake. Here he is, going to splinter off part of that army, and this time, it does get found mid-map. I think that's an Overseer, maybe an Overlord. It does get spotted.
Good scouting there.
But the positioning.
Yeah, this is something where, I mean, if he can come back and surround that, that's nice. But look, Serral immediately realizes the army's retreated, and his army's moving through the center, catches Dark on the retreat, and he starts to engage those Ravagers. Serral realizes if he can get these units into the drone line, he's going to get a nice advantage. Fights going on in 2 locations at once, and Serral there, his Lurkers starting to stack up the damage. There's no detection. Dark has to disengage.
He's going to disengage. We're going to have this fight kind of in the middle map as well. Dark is amassing some economy here for himself, so he's not falling that far behind. He's trying to fight here against this composition of Serral, and I'll tell you what, the maneuvering of the army of Serral could have been, again, game-ending, but he's still kind of catching up with them. He's doing a great job, is Dark.
Yeah, these Lurkers here creating problems, but Dark with some nice maneuvers catches a few of them. The Lurker's speed has started upgrading, but it's only just started. It's not there yet. And remember, Serral has the more fragile composition. Yeah, Hydra's Lurker's very good when you're all set up, but the moment you get caught unburrowed, the Roaches and Ravagers have more raw power than you. So Serral's got to be very careful with his positioning, and you can see here, Dark split his army into 2 sides. He's going down the right and the left at the same time. He wants to find an angle on this base. Serral, though, so prepared.
Both these players have split up their armies and are looking for the favorable fight. They're challenging each other. This Overseer shadow boxing this army, though, moving up the middle of the map, is not going to allow Dark to sneak up into a superior position. He's going to try to drop some corrosive vials on top of these Lurkers. Serral doing a good job of avoiding that damage and just trying to keep him off this as the upgrades finish.
The Lurker Den's on the way, as well as the Hive here for Dark. Dark is trying to catch up in that tech, but Serral has already almost got the adaptive talons, and there we go, it's kicked in. The Lurkers are now basically on stim packs. Serral can move those around so quickly. He can dodge corrosive vial, and this means he can potentially force an aggressive fight on Dark side of the map. For now, a small Roach counterattack, just looking for a couple of worker kills. They are going to hit the 3rd and 4th at the same time, using Burrow there to be as annoying as possible.
Winning some positioning, pulling back significant chunks of the army of Dark, and taxing his multitask. As you said, the Lurkers now become offensive tools, not just defensive. Biles trying to keep off the pursuing Overlords. We know those aren't drop Overlords. But the upgrades, again, pretty favorable here for Serral. But it is Dark who's kind of clicking into gear his own way, and he does have a slight army advantage.
Yeah, these Ravagers, of course, do take up 3 supply each. When the Biles connect, they're suddenly worth their weight in gold. But if Serral keeps dancing the way he is, those Ravagers don't look as powerful. Oh my, the Adaptive Talon Lurkers come in from 2 sides. Dark narrowly escapes being sandwiched between those spines. Serral going to keep pushing forward. Might be a little bit overly ambitious here. The Lurker's a bit far behind this army, but he's going to force the retreat of Dark. The Lurker's going to move forward, dodges the corrosive vial, and Serral finally starting to push Dark back to his side of the map, allowing his Tunneling Claw Roaches to come over, but the Overseer spots it. Dark's on the case.
Man, Dark will not let him get a cheap win that way. He says, you're going to have to win a big fight to beat me over here. Now, some Roaches of Dark trying to find their own hole here as well, but not allowed to do that. Both players have tried to take their 5th base now.
This is a situation where Serral doesn't feel stressed here. He's been here before. He was here down 30-40 supply for a long time against Raynor back in that WCS finals. Same scenario. He's happy to just drag this out. And I wonder how comfortable is Dark. He's a very experienced
this army
player.
Positioning.
Oh, he's looking for 2 angles here.
There's no lurkers.
There's one. One lurker, a spine. There are some overseers. Serral going to force the issue. He's going to try and move forward. At the same time, the right-hand side, but the lurkers are there. Dark, splendid defense, starting to show his pedigree. He is showing that he has got what it's taken. He's been in these sort of finals, especially against Solar many times in the past. He's played some incredible late game ZVZs, but Serral trying to force the way through. The lurker went down to the front. There's no lurkers defending the hatchery. It's exposed. The Vipers are coming out, but they're not going to get there in time. The hatchery goes down, but blinding clouds. Dark trying to get some revenge, abducts a few lurkers in to their death. And the lurkers moving forwards. Roaches and Hydras coming up for Dark. Serral immediately remaxing, adding his own Vipers, but he's done good economy damage, and I think the hatchery on the left-hand side is going to go down as well.
Wow, Serral's going to actually outposition Dark here and try to take a massive lead. He's up in army and workers. The 4th and 5th base do die on the left side, and he's taking a fight over here, and even if this does get cleaned up, which it looks like it will,
he's just relentless. He keeps coming back in, even on the left-hand side once again. He just keeps rallying across this map. Dark's Vipers come in, but they don't have any energy left. His lurkers are getting knocked down one at a time. I don't think he has that Adaptive Talons upgrade yet. Dark has not had a lot of space, and his work account has been battered and bruised over the last 10 minutes. He's down to 51 drones versus 65. He's down in expansion, and you can see that efficiency there. Serral just over time getting further and further ahead. He's adding in a single swarm host there. I think that's the hotkey misclick that we see many times in the late game.
It's the cheerleader. It's the end game cheerleader. It's like, you know what? It's my time to come out here and cheer for you. Dark having a tough time remaxing. As Pig said, he doesn't have the economy for it. He doesn't have the, oh, wow, okay. That's you know what? He runs a tight ship over there. Misclicks, they get punished one way or another. But here we go. Dark's going to try to find something. He's behind, so just doing a straight-up army versus army has not been able to do it. But the counterattacks aren't being allowed to do much either.
You know what's so impressive is Serral's ability when he gets in those 2-pronged attacking positions is to just split small squads of units off, pull back, and then go right back in. Pull back, and then go right back in. And you almost can see Dark's stress meter filling up in these scenarios where eventually he unburrows a lurker or leaves a few lurkers unsupported. Serral just pounces on that opportunity because he plays this sort of game so much. He's practiced it, and very few players can just micro non-stop in so many positions for such a long period of time. Eventually, Serral will find an opening.
We're approaching the 20-minute mark as both these players have just done everything they can to finish it. But it is going to be Serral that pushes forward with the maxed out army. Some abducts on the Vipers actually going back and forth. Ooh. They are going to have that engagement here.
A little bit deep there. Serral's army went in, both sides taking massive lurker splash. The Vipers, of course, starting to abduct each other. This is the part of Zerg vs. Zerg that just gets incredibly weird, where the spellcasters that counter the lurkers also kind of counter each other, and they end up just trying to eliminate the other player's spellcasters.
Yeah.
You need to make sure you have enough Hydralisks on the ground, though, to finish those units off when you pull them in. Each time those Vipers do use those spells, though, they do lose that utility of the Blinding Cloud in the pitched battles.
Well, as time goes on, you're seeing it's Serral that's getting those kind of reach upgrades. We're seeing 3 armor carapace coming in. We're seeing him being able to remax on Vipers and Lurkers. It's actually Dark that's losing out on those key units. So this war of attrition is not favoring Dark. He's also been kind of sequestered to these 4 bases. He's going to look to take his 5th just now, but that's trailing against Serral, who's pushing to his 6th base. So things are looking bleak for Dark. Do you throw down a Spire? Do you go Broodlord? What do you do? I mean, just hope to win in the Lurker battle?
He's got to probably make a big move. When Serral's doing one of these 2-pronged pushes, find a way to keep, battling for information and then collapse on part of his army.
Okay.
But just looking at the mini-map, I mean, we can see there's Roaches burrowed in the bottom right and the top left. Both sides of the map. Serral has got units ready. Look at that. He sees a hatchery. He's like, hey, let's get rid of it. He's got Overlord spotting in the middle of the map. Meanwhile, Dark just doesn't have this control because he's been pushed back into his corner of the map. So he has to defend flawlessly for the next few minutes. Yet once again, Serral finds a way in. Yes, he holds position in the middle of the map, but Lurker's going down in the bottom. He's lost a hatchery on the left-hand side as well. And this is Serral just picking away at his opponent. Never puts everything into a single bet. He never kind of puts all his dice in one cup. It's just lots of little pinpricks, kind of just cuts away at you, and eventually you realize that you've just lost a lot more stuff than he has.
This is awkward here. He was chasing half that army, but it was without his lurkers.
Ooh,
Vipers.
very nice abducts from Dark, but there's
Yeah.
more Vipers in the back. Serral just has a higher Viper count, and another hatchery snipe on the left. Oh, the Roaches also finding their way into these bases in the back, which up to now, Dark hasn't had to worry about. But once again, drones in the open, queens in the open, and a few more abducts there on the counter. Lurk is getting pulled into their death. Serral going to keep adding more and more Vipers. He's permanently maxed out. Dark has managed to hit max. He has a scary army, and he actually has a 20 army supply lead right now. So if Dark can get one really good fight, he can still bring this back. It's just about pinning Serral down and forcing him into a bad engagement.
Yep, and it can't be that attrition thing where they're both using Vipers to pick off the key units. He needs to find that position and pounce on top of it and get the big army fight. Serral doing such a good job, by the way, of being kind of out on the map, and even if that big fight does happen, it's him with the 3K minerals and 1.6K gas. He can remax, and even if it is kind of scary in an exchange, as long as he kills enough Lurkers and Vipers, his remax will be way, way more powerful. So he's fighting for that position.
Oh, even with the adaptive talons, that Lurker can't make it fast force. Spine crawlers. This one comes in, does force a bit of lost mining time. We'll pick off a few workers as well. Dark's looking for that engagement. He wants to make it happen. The Viper's going down on Serral's side. Nice play there from Dark, but Serral answers with his own abducts, pulls a bunch of them into their death. And once again, Serral is never focused in just one area. He comes in and hits Dark's economy once more. Dark being forced more and more all in. This army needs to make it happen, but there's a lot of Lurkers in the back. They're adding so much splash damage. And this base on the left, it's been isolated, but Dark, he's bleeding out too many units. He's got to avoid those Lurkers.
And with this counterattack from Serral, he says, go ahead, take that base. That's my 6th base. I've got other mining bases. You don't. I can see that with my counterattack. He didn't have his Lurkers in position, did Serral, so he says, I'm not going to take a fight and risk this lead going away. Well, Dark's going to try to make something more happen in here. Does he have Lurkers, by the way?
He lost all of his Lurkers in that fight. They got abducted. He just didn't have too many. It's all Roach Hydra. It's a pure mobility army, but it lacks the splash damage. It lacks the ability to set up and control an area. Serral can always bully Dark out of any area because there's no Vipers, there's no Lurkers, those high-efficiency utility units. So Dark's whole army is based around catching Serral in the wrong position, catching him with his units out of position. And at this point, it's just been Serral forcing his advantages into a better and better position. Dark looking for some mistakes, but he's not finding them. He's going to go over to the left-hand side. The Viper's there, the Lurkers, the Hydras. Serral just not leaving the door open at all. He does not mind losing that base. Another Lurker counterattack comes in. Dark's economy is just so weak. He's got nothing in the bank.
And this game of cat and mouse in the middle of the map will have to come to an end. For right now, Dark is going to try to get some more Vipers out there as that kind of key elite unit to try and grab away the Lurkers of Serral, but there are so many Lurkers, and he's able to remake those Vipers so fast.
Yeah.
It's just getting harder and harder for me to see Dark getting out of here, but Serral's going to take the safe route. Oh, wait, the big fight in the middle. It's actually happening. Blinding Cloud's going to go down.
And Lurkers burrowing just forces Dark out of there. And every time we see this, Serral remaxes Dark. His supply getting lower and lower. And I've got to worry for Dark's mentality at this point. This is the worst way to lose a game because you keep feeling like maybe I've got a chance, but he just keeps getting blocked. And at a certain point, your confidence has to take a hit. And that's something which will carry over into any future games. You've come into this series saying, hey, this is the weakest possible opponent I could get in this bracket. And obviously, we know he's probably got a cheeky smile on his face when he did that interview, but he's come out with that confidence, and suddenly he's looking like he might be going down 0-2. He's got such a small army. There's just so much stuff from Serral. Catches half the army coming down in the retreat. That goes down on the left-hand side as well. The armies trade out, which is, of course, good for Serral because he's got the money to replace them.
Serral's got a 100 army supply. He's had enough. He's pushing forward. The Lurkers are burrowing. Blinding Cloud's coming out, but it's just not going to be enough. The army of Serral is marching forward, and he's going to push on and get the GG out of Dark 2-0. For the Finnish player, Serral. Wow.
Dark might have an impressive win rate versus non-Korean players, but you've got to take into account that this is Serral. He's not just anybody else. There's a reason he won 4 WCS championships. There's a reason he won the GSL vs. the World tournament, and there's a reason we keep harping on about his abilities. It's because he is the best defensive player in the world right now. In these matchups, he just sits there and blocks over time, building those advantages. It's masterful to watch. In a game like that, it's not a quick win. It's just slowly draining his opponent of all energy, and that's so hard to recover from. Dark needs to win 3 games in a row to recover.
And I'll tell you what, you talked about mentality in that last game. I can't help but to think about that as well, because it's not like Dark played a bad game. I'm not going to sit up here and say that he threw it away or he took some really huge, weird risk. The Nidus attack is so scary. If it's not properly scouted, it can just outright win the game. One more drone cycle, and Serral's completely out of this game. The follow-up, we were kind of questioning that as well, but ended up being a brilliant response that got him on equal footing. And then all the counterattacks that he repelled away from Serral, but had his own finding some purchase, the tech pass, everything. Dark played a great game, but was constantly behind in every choice. That has to be so depleting to face.
Yeah, he's been coming out with some of that aggression in some of these mid-games periods. Hasn't been working out for him just yet, but he's got a few chances to bring it back here. Let's see if we can get a few more maps. Of course, the Finnish player up against the Korean. We're looking to see who's going to be taking that final spot in the semi-finals of the WCS Global Playoffs.
Well, all right, needing your guys' support to try and take on the Beast. In the top left-hand side, as the Blue Zerg from Korea, it's Dark.
Down here in the bottom right-hand side of Acid Plant, showing his trademark dominance no matter his opponents. In the red, give it up for Serral!
Unfazed, both players are going to go with that hatch-first strategy here. Things have been getting mixed up after that, so of course this does not hold off the potential for things to happen like that. But Dark having a rough go. He has not come into this and said, I'm going to outplay Serral. I'm just going to outgrind him. We're going to get to the burrow phase, and I'm just going to do it better than you. He's come into this saying, with each game, I've got an idea of how I'm going to get a leg up. And it looked like it was a good idea each time.
Yeah.
But Serral, with this defense, and I think back to that Muta Ling versus Roach Corruptor, for Pete's sakes, I was ready to say that's over. It wasn't. The Nidus attack, you were talking about more drones were coming out than I think we were both comfortable with, but he just finds a way, does Serral.
It's the way Zerg's meant to be played as well, right? It's this defensive, reflexive race that reacts to the opponents. And we see it so many times where he's teetering on the brink and he looks like he's about to crumble, and these last reserves kind of come out of the hatcheries, they come out of the production, they surround the opponent's push, and he hangs on by a fingernail and turns the entire game upside down. And that's always in the midst of him backstabbing with Zerglings. He's counterattacking, he's looking to pull his opponent back, because he is a player who will just pick away at you over time. And so a lot of the time we see not just Zerg players, but Protoss players, Terran players, forced to hit this sort of sharp timing attack. They say, look, it's got to be one brutal knockout blow, because over time he's going to wear me down. But we see Serral with this ability to just barely hang on against it so many times. And that, of course, is why he's up 2-0 here against Dark, defending the Roach Corruptor, defending the Nidus Worm. And now here on Acid Plant, it's a big map. Both players opening up rather standard. It seems like Dark is done with the tricks for now. He's just going to say, let's get Zergling speed, let's get the fast third. I'm going to play a straight up game. I'm done with trying these silly shenanigans. Let's just go straight up for now.
And I will say the positioning of that hatchery for Serral is the one that we're kind of all obligated contractually to mention. Means it's a more aggressive hatchery, right? It's a little bit further out there. You knock down those rocks and you're already mid-map. But we do have a faster Baneling Nest, by the way, for Dark. Is this so fast that it's telegraphing something here, or is it an okay time?
Yeah, I'd say this is pretty stock standard, which is almost rare when players play against Serral, because they want to take edges and get things later so they can squeeze out a few more workers. They want to go straight up to Roaches or upgrades, but both sides going into some Zerglings, and indeed it's Serral going for the late Baneling Nest this time. But because he's invested in a full 20 Zerglings, he's going to be trying to keep the fighting on Dark side of the map. He says, doesn't matter if you've got Banelings, as long as I'm on your side of the map, I don't have to defend my workers, I can just avoid you, run circles, keep scouting, pressuring. So Serral wants to put that pressure on. And of course, we're going to have to keep our eye on the production tab. We are expecting drones behind it. We'll have to see. Both players going to clash in the middle of the map soon. These Zerglings going to catch one of these Banelings, but I think it will finish. Ooh, just barely does take that down. Serral coming in. Yep, he's got, of course, that good micro. The Lings on the left escape. The Lings going to the right-hand side. Behind this, he's adding drones. He's adding a few more defensive Zerglings. He's just looking to posture it a little bit. A couple of Banelings are going to come in, and